And now we have the 4th season of Star Trek The Next Generation. And there's a lot to say about this particular season. I think I'll just start on a personal level. I really feel from 4th season to 6th season, those 3 seasons are really my favorite of Star Trek The Next Generation. I feel like out of those, you see the most solid episodes on a consistent basis throughout the whole series, and just solid episodes, not just with plot, but also with character. And Season 4 is really big on developing the characters, and I think that's what really gets me excited, and really devoted to a lot of the characters on Star Trek The Next Generation, in the fact that they get really fleshed out, especially with this season here. Now, they really didn't have a particular goal, at least according to Rick Berman, for what he wanted to do for Season 4. But Michael Pillard does address the character issue, that was something that they were hoping to achieve, in the fact that they looked at episodes as, well, this one will be a Picard show, this one will be a Riker show, this one will be a Worf show. They started doing that a little bit in Season 3, but they really let that manifest, especially in Season 4 and onward. And I think that shows really well. Let's just take a look at some of the characters that they did highlight, and I'll maybe talk about a little bit of each. Picard, obviously, as I've talked about in other seasons, he has really progressed as a character, especially with the 3rd season. As I have mentioned in the past, Patrick Stewart had complained that Picard was not getting enough to do, and he was just on the bridge most of the time, being a negotiator, and you see him getting a lot more to do, especially at the end of the 3rd season with that big cliffhanger, Best of Both Worlds. That is really when fans saw Picard being taken in a direction that he never had before. His humanity is completely taken away, and in that you really get to see the true humanity of Picard, ironically, because of that. You see that one scene where a single tear comes off of his eye as he is being assimilated into the collective. And then you see, even after Picard is restored, at least physically, you see the manifestations of that in the episode Family that follows it. Which, by the way, I should mention that Gene Roddenberry was not a big fan of them doing a 3-parter there with Family. He did not like the idea of Picard having any conflict with a brother on a show. He really, as I've mentioned also in the past, Gene really had this utopian view of the 24th century, and he didn't feel like that petty bickering between siblings would exist in the 24th century. However, I'm glad it stuck in there because it makes great TV, and I think it's a great episode, even though ratings-wise it didn't do well. I think it really does highlight Picard and brings him to a new level there. So great episodes with Picard, both Best of Both Worlds and the episode Family, amongst many others where he shines very well in this season. Data has some great episodes as well. You see him have some reunions with the family, both with Lore. We see him again. We met him in the 1st season. He's brought back here, and he gets to meet his father. And he's also in a great episode called Data's Day, where there really is no huge crisis. It's just looking through the life of Data from day to day, what he thinks about, and how he influences other characters on the ship. And interestingly enough, not only does that episode highlight Data, but also highlights Miles O'Brien, Chief O'Brien, who we've seen on the show before this, in quite a few episodes actually, but this is really where he gets fleshed out for the first time in the episode Data's Day. Geordie LaForge, we see him fleshed out as we see a return of Dr. Leah Brahms, or the real Leah Brahms this season, and it's fun to see that dynamic. And we also see an episode with Geordie. His body is changing in an episode called Identity Crisis. I'll get more into that once I review the episode. Dr. Beverly Crusher. Interestingly enough, Gates McFadden was pregnant for a lot of this season, and so they had to kind of film around that. They didn't write that into the show, but she has some interesting tidbits with her, too. Again, in Data's Day, we learn that Dr. Crusher likes to dance, but she keeps that pretty quiet, but she teaches Data how to do that. She gets a legitimate romance in this one, and a very solid episode later in the season. And I think a big reason why Dr. Crusher was given more and Deanna Troi was given more was the addition of Jerry Taylor in the 4th season, who became the supervising producer, who helped out Michael Piller a lot. And not that the male cast member or the male writers didn't do anything with the female characters, but she really did add a dimension where she rounded out the female characters and made them more interesting with Jerry Taylor's contributions. And so Dr. Crusher definitely gets that. Deanna Troi, of course, we see her interactions with her mother, with Majel Barrett returning again, but we also see her in an episode called The Loss, which I think is a very interesting episode, where she loses her empathic powers. And there are a number of other episodes that are great plot-wise, where Troy's features quite a bit, but I think The Loss is a highlight for me, I think, in the 4th season. Now, Will Wheaton, this was a big season for him because he actually departed not even in the middle of the season, I think probably about a quarter way through. So he, at the time, was becoming really dissatisfied with his character. At the beginning of the series, it was not very well written. Then they started getting better with the Wesley Crusher episodes, and then he kind of felt like it started declining again, that Wesley was just sitting at his station and speaking a little technobabble here and there, but not really doing a whole lot. And Will Wheaton felt like he was a young man passing up potential films that he could be doing, so he decided to leave the show in the 4th season. And some people were actually very happy about that because they didn't like the Wesley Crusher character. But Wesley you do see in future seasons, but this is the last time he is a regular member of the cast here. Now, Lieutenant Worf has some huge episodes this season. Of course, the cliffhanger, he's featured very prominently, but also in an episode called Reunion, where we get to see the return of Kalar, who Worf had a romantic relationship with from season 2. And that's a very strong episode. And I won't talk too much about that because there are some big revelations that we see from that episode, but it really once again expands the character of Worf and his background. We also see Worf's background expanded in family as well, where we get to meet Worf's parents, his human parents. It's mentioned in previous seasons, but this is the first time that we get to see them as well. Now, Commander Riker, I don't feel like he's in this season, but you don't see as much of his family background as the other characters. No Kyle Riker return, which I was kind of surprised at. We saw him in season 2. I thought they'd bring him back, but for whatever reason, we don't see him again. But Riker does have a great episode called Future Imperfect, which I really liked. That was probably my highlight. But he has a couple other ones in there, too. One called First Contact, which I think is very interesting, too. So, every main character really has a lot. As you can see in this photo, even Whoopi Goldberg is finally featured with the regular cast. Now, she wasn't in every episode, but she is really considered a member of the family because Guinan just has such a powerful presence kind of in the background conversing with all of the main cast here. So that's really important as well. Now, I don't really know, out of 4, 5, and 6, which one is my absolute favorite Four, I'm saying right now four, but I don't know that for sure. So we'll get to that when as I go along here, and we'll see as I review each episode which ones I get the most excited about. But right now I'm saying four, but that may change as we go along here. I'd be interested in what you think is your favorite season. Comment below on that. And tell me about some highlights from what you remember from season 4. What do you especially enjoy? What characters do you really think they developed the most? And as I go through these episodes, we can comment about that again near the end and see if, as you follow along with these episodes, things that you have forgotten and maybe that you really appreciated again watching these episodes. So that's really what I have to say about Season 4. A lot of character, as I said, a lot of returns to plots and guest characters that we had seen in previous Star Trek seasons, and I really enjoyed that as well. I think Season 4 really has Star Trek The Next Generation standing on its own. I think that was really when they stopped comparing it to the original series, and this became legitimate Star Trek at this point. I personally feel that I enjoyed the original show, and I think the original characters I feel the strongest about, but as far as the show itself and the quality of the episodes, I feel like TNG does the best with those. That's just my personal opinion. I'd be interested in hearing yours, but that's how I really distinguish between the original series. Love the characters on the original series, but the show and the episodes, I think TNG does the best with that. So, yeah, comment below on your thoughts, and I look forward to reviewing each and every episode of 4th season of Star Trek The Next Generation.